folk singer is dead after she was attacked by a pair of coyotes.
What is the monkey doing? Tell me what the monkey...
He hit your face off!
We actually have a trainer in the water with one of our whales.
If I show weakness, if I retreat, I may be hurt, I may be killed.
Baby Azaria Chamberlain was taken by a dingo back in 1980.
I'll tell you what, gang. I am feeling a little bit dusty today. It's a beautiful Friday morning where I am. And I had a bit of a big one last night. Didn't mean to. Didn't go out and do anything. I just got drunk at home. But yeah, I'll be honest. I tried a new pre-mixed beverage called Wild Boar. Now, I don't know if you have Wild Boar where you are. These things are insane, right? They're fucked. Basically, it's your standard 375 ml can. 4.4 standard drinks per can. And I had 3 of them. I was absolutely sloshed. We had some drinks, watched Inglourious Bastards, and I was just gone. So I'll be honest with you, not feeling great this morning. And if that translates into, I'm not going to say low energy because I'm a performer. I'll get it up for you guys. If it translates into a weird voice, I'm asking if you can hear me. Do I sound hungover? Because I feel like hungover. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. Anyway, welcome back, everybody, to Man It Is, the only true crime podcast on the internet where all the killers are real animals, whether it's biting, scratchings, maulings, or clawings. We are here to talk about it. And today we're back with the final part, I believe, of our Fatal US Shark Attack series. It's been a good one. Last week we went all the way up to the 1950s, and today we're going to try to get through from the 1950s to the present day. So this could be a long one, so let's strap right in. Before we do that, though, I just wanted to say a few little housekeeping things. I got a couple messages. I'm going to pull those up because there's a few things I wanted to respond to. And the first thing was, let me just scroll back and I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, I got an email last week, right before the last episode was recorded, but I didn't include it, from a bloke who is from the United States and is listening to the show and apparently enjoys the show. Thank you very much. I'm going to name him. I'm sure you won't mind me naming you. His name's Alan, and Alan sent an email to me regarding the show. Basically said he's just listened through to the Snakes and Salvation episode, which was an episode about all the fatal snake bites that had occurred in the US. And from my memory, that episode was the big takeaway I took from that was the number of Jesus Christ, I'm terrible today. Should I even record? Is this even something that should be released? This is awful. I apologize. Wow. No, that episode was about fatal snake bites in America, and the big takeaway for me was discovering how many of them were very preventable because they were all they were snakes that were used in religious ceremonies in rural the United States. And so Alan emailed and said, "Hi James, may I call you James? You may call me James. You can call me whatever you like. Just don't call me late for dinner." I don't actually get what that joke means. He says, absolutely love the podcast. Thank you. I just finished Snakes and Salvation, and although I'm sure you've heard from someone else by now, I felt compelled to email you to let you know that most of us here aren't crazy or stupid. I know that. The practice has been made illegal in all states except West Virginia, although most laws only make it a misdemeanor, so it probably still happens. It just doesn't get reported. From what I understand, these snakes are poorly treated, and their venom stores tend to be low as a result. It's a disgusting practice, and most of us here feel that same way. Anyway, I love the podcast. I'd support you on social media, but you won't catch me using any of those apps. Your pal, Al. Which was a great email. Thank you, Al. The headline says Appalachian snake handlers. So I'm not sure if, Al, if you're from Appalachia or Appalachia? Appalachia, right? I don't know much about Appalachia, except I know about oh god, what that conflict between those two families, the Hatfields and the McCoys. Is that right? The McCoys and the Hatfields. I've listened to a podcast about that, and that's pretty crazy. No, and look, that was recorded a very long time ago. I don't remember exactly what I said, but Alan, if I implied that I thought all Americans or all people from rural America were idiots. No, I 100% don't believe that. It was just surprising to me how many times it happened and people were not learning. How many people in like West Virginia would get bitten on the face by a snake at church. Like, that church, I'm not a religious man, but church should be a safe place. You shouldn't be at risk of deadly snake bites there. That's just my opinion. But no, of course, I don't think that everyone where you are is crazy or stupid. Not even most of you are crazy or stupid. Most Americans are amazing people. I know a couple Americans, and they're some of the best people I know. But what I will say is that the crazy idiots that you do have are extremely loud and very recognizably American. So maybe that's where that miscommunication occurred. But no, of course, I do not think that. And thank you for your email, Alan. I very much appreciate it. The other message I wanted to get to was sent through on the Facebook page, which I honestly sometimes forget that we have. We do have a Facebook page. I'm going to pull it up now. Apologies that I'm kind of waffling as I do this. I should have been more prepared and got it earlier. And what also doesn't help me is the fact that my Wi-Fi is terrible right now. We're on some terrible plan. Australian Wi-Fi and internet speeds are terrible, like just renowned to be awful. But we just run out of data, or I don't know what's going on. That's why also, if you're on the Patreon, and if you are on the Patreon, thank you, you'll have noticed that we haven't had a video episode for a couple of weeks. That's because I've filmed them. I just cannot upload them from my home. So I'm trying to work out a better way to deal with that. And yeah, my internet is still not letting me do it. Okay. Do I not have... Okay, great. So I've got an email message here from Tex, who I don't think is from Tex. Tex says, Hey Jim, Booty, fun little tidbit of news from my area. Jim Booty, is that my new nickname, Jim Booty? He sent an attachment. 4 bears euthanized in Swannanoa. I believe that's how you say that place. 4 bears euthanized in Swannanoa after breaking into homes causing extensive damage. And he's linked me an article. So we're going to have a little read of it. But he has said, the bears, they're getting bold as hell, and North Carolinians, is that how you say that? North Carolinians are going to keep feeding him fried shit. If you remember, I remember Tex. I remember I hit you up when I had one under my trailer. Yes, I do remember that, Tex. That was on you messaged on Instagram. That's why I didn't recognize. Oh, dude, I remember you sent through the funniest message I'd ever read. You were like, "Hey, Jambalaya, there's a bear chewing on my trailer. I'm gonna go blow its head off." I remember that. That was incredible. I'm glad you reached back out, buddy. I will read the article. This will be like a little mini scratch of the day. 4 bears euthanized in Swannanoa after breaking into homes causing extensive damage. The North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission recently euthanized 4 bears, including 2 cubs, after the animals broke into 2 homes in Swannanoa, ransacking one and causing extensive damage. Ashley Hobbs, a special projects biologist with the commission, said the incident began Saturday, August 17th at a home in Swannanoa while the owner was out of town. No humans were injured in the incident, which Hobbs has said was stemmed from bears being intentionally and unintentionally fed in the area. A female bear with cubs was seen around the home via a security camera throughout the weekend, Hobbs said. Quote, when the homeowner returned from vacation, they found a previously closed and locked window that had been pushed in, and garbage and contents of their homes had been strewn about the front and backyards of the house, Hobbs said. The homeowner boarded up the windows and returned home later Monday evening to find the board had been pulled off the window frame, and the female bear with cubs from the security footage was standing on the porch just outside the broken window. At a home around the corner on the same night, a resident reported a bear with cubs had pushed in a window while the resident was inside. In an effort to protect public safety and given the nature of the repeated forced entries, NCWRC staff made the decision to trap and put down the female and her cubs, Hobbs said. While trapping efforts were underway, an additional adult female bear was found entering the home through the broken window. NCWRC staff chose to trap and put down that bear as well in the interest of public safety. Euthanization of bears can spark a public outcry, but Hobbs said this case was necessary. Once any bear of any age receives a food reward for a behavior, it's very likely to repeat that behavior expecting additional rewards, Hobbs said. Repeated forced entry into a home is behavior we cannot allow to continue. A resident from a nearby neighborhood, Bee Tree Village, that's a very cute name for your little neighborhood, Bee Tree Village? Oh, that's adorable. Shared an email string with neighbors about the incident. That resident, who asked Ashleyville Watchdog not to identify her because bear feeding has been a contentious issue in the neighborhood, said that the ransacking incident occurred on Bee Tree Road in a home where the resident has 2 children under the age of 13. The resident said she was sharing the story in, quote, hopes that everyone will think twice about supplying food for sources for bears. She did not suggest the people in the ransacked home were feeding the bears. Don't feed the birds, the resident wrote. For those of you who always... I don't know why it says birds. Don't feed the birds, the resident wrote. For those of you who always park your car in the driveway, lock the doors and don't leave any food or food wrappers in it. Don't put your trash out until the morning of pickup. We need to remember that a fed bear is a dead bear. The watchdog does not know that the identity of the homeowner, but has requested the incident report from the commission. NCWRC said this kind of repeated forced entry home is an indication of habitual and food conditioning. Bears in this part of town are often, this is a quote, bears in this part of town are often fed unintentionally through food attractants like garbage, bird feeders, hummingbird feeders, and pet food, Hobbs said. Access to these food attractants serve as a reward for the bear's behavior, encouraging them to seek out food rewards around people's homes. Hobbs said, people living near the house have been intentionally feeding bears bird seed for over a decade. Intentional and unintentional feeding of bears unfortunately leads to bears having to be put down in the interest of public safety, as shown in this incident. This article goes on for a long time after this, and that we've already hit the main points there. Don't feed the bears. If you live in bear country, maybe just forego having a bird feeder as well. And don't leave food scraps in your car. Great. Thank you for sending that in, Tex, my buddy, my pal. Good to hear back from you. And sorry I didn't recognize you earlier from the Instagram message you sent me last year. But it seems like you have a lot of experience with bears. And hopefully one of them doesn't chew on your trailer anytime soon. Okay. That was our little mini scratch of the day. We're going to get into the main meat of the bitch now. What an awful phrase, meat of the bitch. And we're going to talk about deadly shark attacks occurring in the United States starting in the 1950s, I believe. Okay, so, strap in, guys. This is going to be a big one. All right. We're beginning in the 1950s, and our first victim's name was Gilbert S. Holter. This occurred in January 16th of 1950, and the species of shark was a tiger shark. While fishing, Holter was swept into the sea by a large wave in Hawaii. 3 large tiger sharks were seen in the area of the day of the accident. His torso was recovered from a huge tiger shark caught 3 days earlier. I'm going to just really quickly check something and make sure that I'm not starting in the wrong place, because... maybe we're starting in the 60s. Hold on. No, that's not correct. No, I think we're right. I think I'm in the right place. We finished in the 40s. What was the last story last year? Last episode. No, I think we're right. Okay, all right. The next victim's name was Pedro Guzman. He was 25 years old when he died on June 6, 1950 by an unknown species of shark. The plane Guzman was on crashed roughly 275 miles northeast of Miami in Florida. When trying to swim to the rescue boat, Guzman was attacked and bitten by a shark 5 times. He died about 10 minutes after being pulled onto the boat. The next victim's name is, and I've always loved this name, Alejandro Nodura. died on June 25th, 1951 from a tiger shark. Alejandro was swept out to sea while fishing in Hawaii. The victim was last seen in a shark's mouth. Now, this next person, we don't have a full proper name for them. They're just known as a male Pan Am pilot. This pilot was killed while swimming near Key West in Florida. The man was bitten in the groin area. The shark species was unconfirmed, and the death occurred in 1952. Man, being bitten in the groin by a shark, that's a bad day. I don't care who you are, that's a bad day. Now, the next victims, it's a group of people. The survivors of the wreck of the, quote, Spare Time. That's an interesting name for a vessel. The Spare Time. Usually they have like some kind of, oceanic pun or maritime pun. Maybe there's a pun there that I'm not aware of. The survivors of the wreck of the Spare Time died July 27th, 1952, by an unknown species of shark, although it was possibly a great white, a blue, or an oceanic white-tip shark. This incident took place 14 miles from the shore of the coast of Santa Monica, California, in very rough seas. After the engine of the boat failed, several men tried to repair it. However, the boat exploded and it sank. The next day, 3 men out of the 12 were rescued from shark-infested water. Others are presumed to have drowned, died in the explosion, or been killed by sharks. Now, the next victim, I'm going to try to get this name correct. It looks Japanese to me. Shigeshi Kawamura. Yeah, Shigeshi Kawamura died on August 3rd, 1952 from a tiger shark. Kawamura disappeared while swimming between Ala Moana Channel and Kewalo Basin in Hawaii. A shark bite was found on the right side of his body. The next victim was 40 years of age, Gerbaccio Solano. Died December 3rd. Some good names this episode. Gerbaccio Solano. He died December 3rd, 1952 from a tiger shark. And surprisingly, tiger sharks are our number one killer in this list so far. I would have thought before going into this it would be the great white, but no, it's the tiger shark. Mostly because of Hawaii. It seems that the tiger sharks are very prolific in Hawaii. Solano was killed by an extremely large shark described by witnesses as being in excess of 22 feet, which is 6.7 meters. Jesus Christ. While swimming from his fishing boat, setting nets at Maule Beach in Hawaii. My God, 6.7 meters. To put this in perspective, guys, last week I did a show in a theater, and I designed the set for this show, and it was a large wall, and the wall was 4.8 meters high. It really tall, that goes all the way up to the lighting rig of a theater, so quite tall. 4.8 meters, really big. This shark was 6.7 meters, so a full 2 meters bigger than that wall. That is fucking massive. That's huge. I keep doubting that this can be real, but if it is real, that is horrific. And it's not even a great white. This is a tiger shark. I didn't know that they got that big. The next victim, it looks like is it 2 victims, or does this guy have a really long name? I think he has just a very long name. I wasn't sure. The guy's name is Arthur Barry Lyle Wilson, but it's written on 2 different lines, so it looks like it could be 2 people, one person named Arthur Barry or Lyle Wilson. I think it's just one guy who was 17 years old. Wilson was attacked at approximately 2 p.m. on December 7th, 1952. He was swimming near Lovers Point in Pacific Grove in California with a friend, Bruckner W. Grady Jr., who was 15 at the time. Wilson was some 25 yards from the shore and in 30 feet of water, which is about 9 meters of water. Wave faces averaged 8 feet, with 6 to 8 feet of visibility in the 55-degree water. That's a lot of really detailed information there. Suddenly, a 3.7 to 4.6 meter shark attacked Wilson, thrashing him and lifting him several feet into the air. Grady swam to his friend's aid and began gouging the shark's eye with a hunting knife. Incredible. 4 other swimmers helped pull the unconscious Wilson onto an inner tube, reaching shore some 20 to 30 meters later with the shark circling the entire way. By then, Wilson had bled to death. His right leg was nearly bitten off in the attack. He also suffered a severed femoral artery, gashes to his left thigh, torso, and back, and a large chunk was torn out of his right buttock. The wounds suggest Wilson was bitten at least 4 times. The attack, which was witnessed by scores of beachgoers, was the first time considered to be the first authenticated attack on the California coast. That's right, and this was a great white shark, by the way. I've said in the previous episodes, I was surprised that California hadn't come up yet, and my theory was that, like, I didn't think California was like a state until, you know, into the 1900s or something like that. I don't know my California history. I'm not going to Google it either. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But these last 2 are the first time California, I think, has come up. Also interesting and sort of out of character for a great white shark. Usually what happens in a shark attack, particularly with great whites, is that they'll give you like an exploratory bite. And this is what kills people most of the time. The shark, you know, visibility isn't great for them. Their eyesight isn't awesome. And what they say, oftentimes they mistake us for their prey, which would be like a seal or a large fish or something like that. And they're not sure what we are. So they give us a bite to see what we are. And usually that's the one. They bite you once, they realize, fuck, that's not a seal. That's something else. I don't want to eat it. Don't know what that is. Apparently we don't even taste very good to sharks. This is clearly not what happened here because he was bitten 4 times. So that suggests to me like predation. The next death was Gordon S. Chun, who was killed by probably a tiger shark, but we're not sure, on April 8th, 1953. Gordon S. Chun was swept into the sea while fishing from shore. Chun's body was recovered but mutilated by sharks. He may have been drowned. He may have drowned near Wailupai in Oahu, Hawaii. Harold Souza, 15, also was killed around the same area. July 26th, 1953. He was 15 at the time. Was killed by a tiger shark. Souza was killed while spearfishing off Malay Beach in Hawaii. A 10-foot long, which is 3 meters, shark was observed in the vicinity. Captain Kosu Mizukawa was killed. He was attacked after diving overboard and swimming near the stern of the Japanese-flagged trawler Tayo Maru in the Van Camp Seafood Company tuna cannery in Pago Pago Harbor in American Samoa. Oh, that's our first American Samoan. He was killed by a tiger shark, probably, but unconfirmed, on January 6, 1955. And we've got... Well, so the 50s was pretty bad for shark attacks, guys. We've got a lot to go. Jose Elengo, who was 13 years old, was our next victim. He died July 28th, 1956 by an unknown species of shark. Elengo was 30 to 40 feet from shore at 10:30 in the morning, floating in an inner tube off Puerto Rico, when his brother speared a shark, which then proceeded to attack Elengo. Elengo died after his left leg was severed at the knee. Jesus Christ. Far out. Stop spearing the sharks. They get pissed off. Jose Luis Nufisi Lago, is that how I say it? Lago was skin diving off the northern coast of Puerto Rico when a school of sharks attacked him, severing one of his legs. Lago was 13 years old when he died some point prior to August 15th, 1956. Peter Savino, 25 years old, was our next victim. He was killed by a great white shark on April 28th, 1957. Savino was killed at approximately 1:30 p.m. while swimming with a friend, Daniel Hogan, who was 22, off Atascadero Beach, Morro Bay, California. After being swept out some 600 yards from shore by a strong tide, the 2 men started to swim back, though Savino began to tire. As Hogan towed Savino, a shark appeared and nudged Savino with enough force to draw blood. Aware of the imminent danger, the men started a furious race to shore, but when Hogan looked back to check on his friend, Savino had disappeared. The U.S. Coast Guard sent a launch to the area, and Executive Officer James C. Knight reported seeing a 21-foot, which is 6.4 meters, shark swim by, though by the time the crew had returned to the spot with ornaments, the shark had disappeared. Despite the following day's search, Savino's body was never recovered. This attack bears similarities to the attack on Robert Pamperin in June 1959 by a similarly large white shark. I guess we'll talk about that pretty soon. Yeah, wow. That's crazy. Rupert Wade, 57 years old, passed away after being attacked by a great white shark. Wade was killed while swimming in the surf at Atlantic Beach, Salter Path, Carteret County, North Carolina. He died on July 15, 1957. The next death occurred nearly a year later, July 10th, 1958. Angel Escartin, who was 35 years old, was killed by an unconfirmed species of shark. The autopsy report concluded that Escartin was bitten by a shark off Key West in Florida while still alive. William S. Weaver, 15 years old, died from a tiger shark while surfing in Hawaii. Weaver was killed when his leg was severed. Rescue personnel recovering his body 2 hours later observed a 18-foot shark in the vicinity. He died on December 13th, 1958. Albert Kogler Jr., 18 years old, died on May 7th, 1959 from a great white shark. Kogler was killed while swimming less than 15 feet of Kogler was killed while swimming in less than 15 feet of water off Baker Beach, San Francisco, California. Robert Lyle Pamperin. Pamperin? Yes, Pamperin. This was the story that was mentioned in the death of Peter Savino. Robert Lyle Pamperin died on June 14th, 1959 from a great white shark. Pamperin was freediving with a friend, Gerald Lehrer, 30 years old, for abalone at Alligator Head in California. The men were 55 yards from the shore, diving at a depth of 42 feet. The water temperature was 68 degrees Fahrenheit with 23 feet of visibility. Around 5:10 p.m., Lehrer heard Pamperin screaming for help, thrashing his body momentarily upright and waist high out of the water before submerging. Lehrer, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. Lehrer dove and spotted a 22-foot shark thrashing Pamperin in its mouth. Lehrer dove several times in a futile effort to scare off the shark before swimming to land. The attack was witnessed by several people on shore. An extensive search by police, divers, and the Coast Guard failed to recover a body. Only a single swim fin was found. He was seen being swallowed whole feet first. Oh my god. Holy shit. Oh, awful. That's so terrifying. Like, even though the tiger shark ones, were occurring way more frequently, the great white shark ones are just so ferocious. It's crazy. I think it's just that animal is particularly vicious when it does attack. The tiger shark ones are usually like, oh, it bit his leg off and he died from blood loss. The great white shark ones are like, yeah, it took him under the water and thrashed him around and threw him out of the water and like beat the shit out of him. It's like the grizzly bear of the ocean. My God. Wow, this is interesting. This person shares two of my names spelled correctly too. Lieutenant James C. Neal. That's interesting because my name is James Neal Chapman with a C. Wow, that's really, really cool, man. Lieutenant James C. Neal was 26 years old. He died on August 15th, 1959. This was our last death in the 50s. The shark species is unconfirmed, but what we do know is that Neal was freediving with 4 friends in the Gulf of Mexico, about 9.7 kilometers off Panama City in Florida. Neal's friends surfaced and threw him a line after entering their cruise boat. Neal, however, failed to climb up. One of the men, Gary Seymour, 21 years old, went back into the water to search for Neal, but was attacked by 2 big sharks, managing to escape by hiding in a crevice in the coral reef. That's insane. That's crazy. Hiding in a coral reef from sharks, that's so terrifying. Navy divers from the U.S. Naval Mine Defense Laboratory found Neal's swim fins, face mask, and lead diving weights, all showing bite marks. Neal's swim trunks and parts of his undershirt were also found, blood-stained and ripped. His body was never recovered. Charter boat captain Charles House reported his crew baited and hooked two 12-foot sharks some 300 feet from Neal's last known location about an hour before he vanished. Wow. Yeah, Jesus, the 50s were intense for shark attacks. They were lousy with shark attacks. Let's look at the 60s. The 60s is less. Let's do the 60s, and then maybe we take a small little break. We're diving into the 60s now, and the first death was, we don't know the name. We just know that they were a young Marine recruit. This recruit died sometime in August of 1960 by an unconfirmed shark. This victim was killed while swimming from camp off Parris Island, South Carolina. Sarah Sargent died November 22nd, 1960. She was 51 years old. Sargent died after falling overboard in turbulent waters off St. Lucie Inlet in Florida. Her body, quote, mangled by sharks, washed up later. She probably drowned before being scavenged. Yeah, I'd hope so. If I'm going to be, I would rather be dead first rather than be scavenged by sharks and then die. Harold Riley died on December 27th, 1960 from a tiger shark attack. He was swept out to sea while net fishing in Hawaii. This happens a lot. Riley was seen being attacked by a 20-foot shark. His body was recovered off the coast. William J. Dandridge was 23 when he died on June 24th, 1961. We don't know what shark killed him, but it was probably a bull shark or a tiger shark. Dandridge was killed while scuba diving and spearfishing 9 miles east of Key Biscayne in Dade County, Florida. The left side of Dandridge's torso, including the left arm, was devoured. Jacob Horn died in October of 1961 at the age of 45. Again, unconfirmed shark, but probably a bull or tiger shark. This is a presumed tiger shark. Horn's mutilated body washed ashore near Boca Raton in Palm Beach County, Florida. Hans Fix, it's like Hans Blix, but Hans Fix, 40 years old, was killed by a bull shark. Fix was killed while surf fishing. Don't even know what that is. Surf fishing in waist-deep water at Andy Bowie Park in Padre Island near Port Isabel, Texas. This death occurred on August 19th, 1962. The next victim's name was Roy C. Kametani, maybe? Kametani? Sounds like Hawaiian or Japanese. Roy C. Kametani died on April 8th, 1962 from a tiger shark attack. Kametani was swept out to sea whilst picking opahi? What is this? Oh, they're sea snails. Sea snails, let's just say that, in Hawaii. Parts of the body were later recovered. The victim may have drowned before being consumed. Now, this is interesting. I've never seen this shark before in my life. Apparently, this next victim was killed by a Galapagos shark. Yeah. I've never heard of a Galapagos shark. Galapagos reef shark. Wow. LTJ Lieutenant Junior Grade. Okay. Lieutenant Junior Grade John W. Gibson, who was 25 when he died, was killed on April 20th, 1963. Gibson was attacked at about 1:30 p.m., roughly 33 yards from shore, while attempting to swim across Magens Bay, St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. Water conditions were calm, with a temperature of approximately 82.4 degrees Fahrenheit and a depth of 40 feet. A vacationing tourist acquainted with Gibson, Donna M. Waugh, 25, aided him in swimming to shore, but he succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at 2 p.m. Gibson's wounds included a dismembered right hand, a mangled left shoulder, and a badly bitten right thigh and hip, including a severed femoral artery. The next day, a 10-foot-long male Galapagos shark was baited and hooked in the bay. Its stomach, containing Gibson's missing hand and other human remains, the shark's jaws are now on display at the University of Puerto Rico at a marine laboratory. Final death in the 60s occurred on September 20th, 1967. An unidentified male was the victim, but they were killed by a tiger shark. This victim lost at sea when his boat capsized in the water between the Hawaiian islands of Oahu and Molokai. Part of the victim's remains were recovered from the stomach of the captured 11-foot tiger shark. Yikes. We have a lot to go, guys. We're at the 70s now. To be completely honest with you, this series could be a 4-parter. I thought we were going to finish today, but we might not. We might have to do another episode next week as well. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll go through the 70s. We'll try to get through the 80s, and that'll leave us the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and of course the 2020s for next week. We'll see how we go. All right, guys. Going to take a quick break. You'll hear some messages potentially, maybe. And I will talk to you soon. Go and do a week. Timo, quick message for you guys in the break. Maneaters has been shortlisted for the Australian Podcast Awards Listener's Choice Award, and I would be deeply, deeply honoured and appreciative if you would go ahead and vote for our little show. I think it's very highly unlikely that we'll get to any further stage than where we are. A lot of the podcasts that are up for this kind of stuff are run by big networks and big companies over here in Australia, and also my listener base doesn't really live in Australia. You guys all live over in the United States and the UK and Canada and elsewhere, but wouldn't it be cool if our little show could get a little nomination or a little award for the Listener's Choice Award at the Australian Podcast Awards? The nominations for the other awards will be coming out next month, and we'll see how we go. I did submit myself for true crime and for education, so we'll see what happens there. But, you know, at the very least, I'd love it if you guys could vote for the Listener Choice Awards. The instructions will be in the bio of this, or the description of this video or this podcast, wherever you're listening to it. So feel free to click the link and search Maneaters and follow the prompts to vote for me. I'd really, really appreciate your assistance here. Yes, I love you. Goodbye. Haha. We're back. Oh, guys, you know what time it is? It's time to keep going with the list. All right, we're into the 70s now, guys. So get your, what happened in the 70s? Get your pants with the little, get your corduroy pants and your frilly flowered clothes. I don't know much about the 70s, I'll be honest. I wasn't here for that. But someone who was here for that, although briefly, was Ernie Rutherford, I think. Ernie Rutherford was our first victim in the 1970s. He died on March 31st, 1970 by an unconfirmed shark, although it was likely a tiger shark. Ernie was swept out to sea by strong surf while bodyboarding in Hawaii. A 15 to 18-foot shark was observed in the area. Rodney Temple was killed when he was scuba diving with partners Brett Gillum and Robbie McIlvey? I don't know. Let's just call him Robbie, in calm waters with 150 feet of visibility, some 300 yards from shore. The experienced divers were retrieving research samples from Cane Bay, St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. At a depth of about 200 feet, which was about 64 meters, they noted 2 oceanic white tips circling them. Gillum and McIlvey, don't know his name, began ascending to the surface first and momentarily decompressing on a reef ledge at 53 meters before noticing bubbles rising from Temple's position below. Gillum descended and saw a 12-foot shark biting Temple's left thigh, and the second larger shark attacking immediately afterwards and severing Temple's lower left leg. Gillum grabbed Temple's shoulder harness and began kicking to the surface, but the sharks pulled the 2 men deeper to 400 feet, tearing into Temple's abdomen and pulling him out of Gillum's arms. Gillum and McIver, I can't say his name, successfully surfaced and survived. Temple's body was never recovered, and this may be the deepest shark attack on record. Wow. That's terrifying. This attack occurred on October 14th, 1972. Poor Rodney Temple and poor Gillum and poor guy whose name I can't remember how to pronounce. Billy Horn, who was 10 years old, was killed while adrift after the yacht he was on caught on fire and sank. Horn was killed by a shark in the Gulf of Mexico off the coast of Florida, and it's believed it was an oceanic white-tip shark. This occurred on July 2nd, 1974. John Carter, 17 years of age, was killed on July 20th, 1974. Carter was killed by a school of small sharks while swimming in the Back River on the southern end of Savannah Beach in Chatham County in Georgia. It was unconfirmed what kind of sharks they were. If it's a river, right? Probably a bull shark, unless it's like if it's a saltwater river. I'm not sure. I would have thought it would be a bull shark there. Grace Conger, 62 years old, died on July 30th, 1975 by an unconfirmed shark attack. Conger died from blood loss after being attacked by sharks when her fishing boat sank off the coast of Oregon. Stephen C. Powell was also killed by an unconfirmed shark, although this one is believed to have been a tiger shark. He died on July 16, 1976. Killed by a shark while scuba diving in Hawaii. Only the lower portion of Powell's body was recovered. Danson Nakayama was killed in 1976 by a bull shark. Nakayama was presumed to have been killed while scuba diving for black coral at a depth of 55 meters in Hawaii. Approximately 30 large sharks were seen near his partially devoured remains. And finally, for the 1970s, an unidentified man was killed in 1979 by an unconfirmed shark, although it is likely and probably a tiger shark. This unidentified victim disappeared while fishing from shore at Big Island in Hawaii. Police divers only recovered the elderly man's severed hand and a flashlight. Let's move on to the 80s now. 80s? What was happening in the 80s? I don't know. They didn't make a sitcom about... Well, I guess they did. They made that 70s show so I can know what the 70s looks like. And I guess there was an 80s show, but I didn't watch it because it wasn't very good. Okay, our first victim in the 1980s was Roger B. Garlitz. He died May 21st, 1981. It's unconfirmed what species killed him, but it was probably a tiger shark. Garlitz disappeared while scuba diving and spearfishing at a depth of 60 to 80 feet in murky, choppy waters in Hawaii. His recovered dive gear and shredded wetsuit, which bore numerous teeth marks, were suggestive of a fatal shark attack. Oh gosh, this person's last name looks very scary. Her name was Christy Wapniarski. Christy Wapniarski died on August 10th, 1981 from a shark that we don't know what it was, but probably a bull or tiger shark. A catamaran, Wapniarski, I'm just going to call her Christy. A catamaran Christy was riding on had capsized the night before off Daytona Beach in Florida. She was presumably killed by a shark while attempting to swim to shore at daybreak. Mark Meeker, 26 years old, died from a bull shark attack, we presume. Meeker was killed while swimming between Anna Maria Island and Egmont Key State Park in Tampa Bay, Mattapony County, Florida. He was found dead the next day. He had taken off his bathing suit to use the drawstring as a makeshift tourniquet on his right calf. That's clever. He died on September 15th, 1981. This next story is quite long and quite detailed, so let's see what happens. This person's name is Louis Archer Boren. He was 24 years old, and he died December 19, 1981. He was killed by a great white shark. Boren was attacked on December 19th while surfing alone at South Moss Beach, Spanish Bay, Monterey, California. He was last seen by friends at approximately 2 p.m. after they surfed together that morning. The next day, two surfers stumbled upon Boren's kneeboard, which had been washed ashore with an 18-inch crescent-shaped bite taken out of one of the sides. The board's missing piece was found nearby. Analysis of the bite mark showed the presence of embedded teeth fragments from a great white shark. At 11 a.m. on December 24th, which is 5 days later, Boren's body was spotted by a park ranger near Pacific Grove, about 1 kilometer north of the attack site. Boren, who had been wearing a dark wetsuit, was believed to have been lying on his yellow kneeboard in 10 feet of water just beyond the breakpoint when a great white shark struck from the left side, biting through Boren and his board. Water conditions were rough, with average temperatures for that time of year, with grey skies and deteriorating visibility. Boren was bitten once, his massive wound extending from beneath his left armpit to just above the hip, and stretching more than halfway across his body, likely killing him instantly. This attack was notable for the size of the shark involved. Oh my god. Experts concluded that the shark was expected to be around 7.1 meters long. Fuck off. That's huge. The specimen was never found or identified, and it is considered the largest white shark ever recorded with verifiable evidence. Wow. So I guess they judge the size based off the bite mark in the bodyboard, in the knee board. 7.1 meters long. My god. How long is an average school bus? I want to just, for the Americans in the room, I want to just kind of give you some perspective. How long is a school bus? 14.5 meters. Wait, what? Oh, this is an Australian. In America. 45 feet. So a maximum length of 13.7 feet. So half of a school bus, essentially, is the length of this shark. Crazy. Okay, let's keep going. John Lippeth, 27 years old, and Mark Adams, 42 years old, are our next two victims. They died on October 27th, 1982, by an unconfirmed shark attack. The two victims were crewing a 58-inch... Is it 58 inch? 58 foot? I don't know. A 58 yacht in the ocean, somewhere off Ocean City, Maryland. Also on board were additional crew members Meg Cooney, Brad Kavanagh, and Deborah Scaling Kiley. Deborah Scaling Kiley has her own Wikipedia page. She was an American sailor, author, and motivational speaker and businesswoman. Okay. Soon after departing Maryland, the yacht was caught in a major tropical storm. The severity of the storm forced the crew to abandon the ship in heavy seas. The crew managed to board a rubber dinghy with no motor, survival equipment, food, or water on board. During the abandonment of the ship, Meg Cooney sustained serious injuries. At some time, with no food or water, both Lipton and Adams opted to drink salty seawater. Well, you don't do that, in an attempt to slake their thirst. Shortly afterwards, both of them began hallucinating, and then they jumped overboard. The two were soon thereafter killed and devoured by a group of sharks, which had been circling their dinghy for several days. While awaiting rescue, Meg Cooney succumbed to her injuries and also died. The remaining two members were eventually rescued by a Soviet ice harvesting ship. Jesus Christ. That's a crazy story. Deborah Scaling Kiley is an author, so maybe she wrote about that. That's wild. Who was she? She was the first American woman to compete in the Whitbread race around the world, and she survived a boating accident. Yeah, there you go. Wow. Omar Conger. Now, we had another Conger before. Maybe they're unrelated. Omar Conger, 28 years old, died September 15th, 1984 from a great white shark attack. Conger was attacked at 8:30 a.m. while freediving for abalone with a friend named Chris Ream, who was 33 years old, in 15 feet of water about 164 yards from the shore near Pigeon Point between Half Moon Bay and Santa Cruz, California. The men had been in the water for about 20 to 30 minutes before the attack occurred. Water conditions were calm, but visibility was less than 3 feet, which is about a meter. Conger was struck twice, with the shark initially thrashing and pulling him underwater before resurfacing and swimming away. Ream pulled Conger onto an inflatable surf mat, but Conger bled to death before they could reach shore. Injuries to Conger's thighs were extensive. Both femoral arteries were severed, and his hands and buttocks were severely bitten. The wounds suggested that the great white was at least 16 feet long. Conger's black wetsuit may have increased the likelihood the shark mistook him for a seal. Yeah, could we all be wearing yellow or red? Like, I know it's not as cool as like a sleek black wetsuit, but like, I think it's worth it to not be eaten by a shark. Wow. The next victim, we don't know his name, but we do know he was 67 years old and he was a diver. This victim was presumed to have been killed by a shark off the Gulf of Mexico in the coast of Florida. His body was never recovered. Some of his equipment, a diving regulator, a swim fin, and a bathing suit were found showing teeth marks. This person died sometime in August of 1985 by an unconfirmed shark. The next three victims were all killed by unconfirmed sharks. The next one was Levi Chandler, who died April 20th, 1986. Chandler was fishing from the rocky shore at Callaway Point, Kauai in Hawaii before falling into the waters and disappearing. Police divers searching the area encountered a large shark swimming in the vicinity and retrieved floating pieces of clothing and human flesh. The victim may have drowned before being consumed. Daniel Kennedy died April 15th, 1987 by an unconfirmed shark attack. Kennedy was presumed to have been killed by a shark while swimming out to an anchored sailboat near Kailua Kona in Hawaii. While his body was never recovered, his swim trunks were found bitten in half on the seafloor. Avery Gu, that's an interesting last name, Gu, was killed. This victim's 21-foot powerboat capsized in turbulent water off the coast of Hawaii. Pieces of human flesh consisting of stomach, intestines, and pancreas washed ashore several days later. Avery died April 15th, 1988, from an unconfirmed shark. This person did have a confirmed shark. It was a bull shark that killed John P. Martin, who was 38 years old. Martin was killed while snorkeling around Shell Island near Panama City, Florida. A 3-meter-long bull shark had caused fatal thigh and hand wounds. John died September 13th, 1988. The next entry has 2 victims listed, Tamara McAllister and Roy Jeffrey Stoddart, both 24 years of age. They both died January 26, 1989. McAllister was killed while kayaking off the coast of Malibu in California with her boyfriend, Roy Jeffrey Stoddart. McAllister's body was found floating face down 2 days later, with large sections from her legs and buttocks missing. No trace of Stoddart was ever found. They were both killed by a great white shark. This next death was a tiger shark, and the person's name was Ray Meal Jr. This is the final death in the 1980s, and it's where we will stop today. Ray Meal Jr. died on October 14th, 1989. This victim was scuba diving with a partner at a depth of 27 feet, which is about 8.2 meters, about 230 meters from the shore near the Hiko power plant in Hawaii. He had been in the water for about 10 to 15 minutes before vanishing around 4:30 p.m. His partner conducted a search of the area where water visibility was around 9.1 meters, but could not locate Mel. The following morning, a decapitated body was spotted by rescue divers 200 feet west of Mel's last location. But before it could be retrieved, a large tiger shark suddenly appeared and proceeded to devour what remained of the body. Mel's partner noted the parrotfish had been exhibiting unusual behavior just prior to his disappearance. And there you go. Gangarang, this is a long list, lots to unpack there. We will start back up next week with what I promise you will be the final part. We'll do the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s. And that will do our list, and we'll be done and we can move on. This is probably the longest list we've read. Maybe the Bears in North America was also equally long, but I can't remember doing a list this long before either. So yeah, let's call it a day there. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you've learned a lot and have found these stories captivating and horrific as I have. A few little bits of housekeeping as we go. The Patreon, as always, you can join the Patreon and get access to lots of goodies, most prominently the video episodes of this, but also access to free artwork. Occasionally we'll do a poll and ask some questions and stuff like that. It's a great little place to be. If you got $5 a month hanging around you'd like to give to me, I will gladly take that off your hands. And it's $5 Australian, I'm pretty sure, not American. So it's actually less for Americans. It's probably like $3.50 or something like that, because our exchange rate sucks. So yeah, for the price of a cup of coffee, you can come and support me. I don't even like coffee, so you shouldn't like it either. I don't know what I'm saying. As always, guys, all of the social media bullshit, you can find us at Man Eaters Podcast, at www.maneaterspod is our website, maneaters.com/maneater, Jesus Christ, patreon.com/maneaters is the Patreon. You can email me, maneaterspod@gmail.com. The Facebook obviously is there, or you can follow us on Instagram, Man Eaters Podcast, or at Jimothy Chaps. All those good little things. And as you heard in the break, yes, we are nominated for a Listener's Choice Award at the Australian Podcast Awards. It would mean so much for me if you would go and vote for that. That also is in the description of this podcast. Thank you I love you a lot. I love you more than I should love you. It's a problem. It's getting ridiculous. I think we need some time apart because I am starting to catch feelings for you. Okay, time to go have a nap and drink some water. I still feel very hungover. Oh God. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week.